Hey, everybody, this is Mike Feldbauer coming to you from the Flag the Voice podcast studios here in Palm Coast, powered by the U.S. News and Entertainment Network. And today, on the road to recovery, again, we have our special friend Robert back with us today to talk about items that he's learned over the 39 years that he's been in recovery. I think it won't be that much longer we'll be able to say 39, will it?
We'll be able to say 40 on April 25th.
Okay. I think at that point, we probably have a party. How's that? April 25th, we'll go to 40. All right, Robert. Well, welcome back. Glad you're with us today. And you had a couple of things that you wanted to discuss with our listening audience today. And most of it's about how we look at ourselves.
Yes.
Okay. Are we accepting our responsibility, or are we blaming others? Those kinds of things are the things that we want to talk about today. And once we get a better understanding, I believe, once you get a better understanding of yourself,
yes,
stop looking at the others.
Yes,
the recovery gets smoother.
That's the plan, anyway.
All right, well, let's go see what you have to say about this.
Sometimes it's smoother than others, but it's always smoother than it used to be. One of the reasons that I wanted to discuss this today is because of all the different relationships we have prior to recovery. We needed to be different things to different people, but always being at odds with ourselves. We just wanted to be in harmony with significant others, employers, and it's a recurring theme, I think, that's interwoven in the many conversations we've had. But until I see myself as a person of addiction, alcoholism in my case, and I could see myself as a person of recovery, being able to progress, I was never going to go anywhere. I would stay trapped in what is called a trap that could not be sprung. As long as I saw myself from the outside in instead of the inside out, I never stood a chance of recovery whatsoever, because I would never be able to admit I was powerless over alcohol, that my life had become unmanageable. Unless I do that, I don't stand any chance. I don't feel any need to recover. It'll always be somebody else doing something to me that I needed to drink over.
And isn't that one of the primary steps in the 12-step program, is taking personal responsibility?
It is. And it's essential for every person. And it's not just 12 steps of recovery. It's every monotheistic religion of the world. Every form of helps out there, we have to admit where we're at before we can move forward with who we want to be.
And that gets back to the old saying that we say, it ain't going to happen unless you want it to happen.
Exactly.
You're willing to admit to it.
Yeah.
And start dealing with it on a personal basis.
Yeah. And in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which I'm a student of and have been for 39 plus years, 39 years, 8 months, and 20 some days, whatever it is. Who's counting? I'm counting, as we all know. It says, if you want what we have and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. In that phrase, in that statement, I'm accepting responsibility for who I am. I could do what other people wanted me to do, but until I admitted who I was, until I saw myself, a friend of mine would tell me, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and the lights are out and nobody else is there. You know what the truth is about you. I knew the truth about me much longer before I was willing to admit the truth about me. Because the minute we admit, then we're responsible to do something about it. And I wasn't ready to give up that which made me feel comfortable, regardless of how destructive I was in the relationship.
Yeah. Well, that's, I've seen that's the same thing, this same topic basically called in different things over the years.
Yep.
But it's that decision that you've got to make, that you're at the end, you want to start new, you're done with this, What do I got to do with that?
Yeah.
And then the teachings teach you what you need to do with it. Not every move of the teaching, but the basics, like
Yeah.
admitting,
Yeah.
I need some help.
Mike, and we still do it. Gosh, I love this conversation because it's foundational to my wellness. To this day, step 10 in recovery is continue to take personal inventory. And when we were wrong, not if we're wrong, when we're wrong, promptly admit it. So I'm always going through that self-diagnosis, that self-appraisal that tells me I'm not who I should be. But unless I admit where I'm at, I never can expect to be going further. Until you admit that you're stuck, you can never get free, because why would you be free if you're not stuck?
And part of that is what you've expressed in the past, and even earlier pre-conversation day is you got to talk to yourself. It's not
Yeah.
just me talking to you about what you got to
Yeah.
do. You got to talk to yourself and get yourself to the point where you say, you know what? Yes, I need to do it.
Yeah.
I need to do it. I might need some help. Maybe I can't do it just on my own thinking stuff. But when you have the resources, as for you with AA and your AA book and the people that you surround yourself with, those resources are there to help you, but they can't help you until
Right.
you make that decision.
You can't get them saved before you can get them lost. A person has to admit that they're lost before they need to be found. And unless I came into alignment with what others were saying about me, I never stood any chance. It was always, you don't understand. It was never, you're probably right. Because much longer before I recovered, they could see that I had a problem with alcohol. They could see that I had a problem with living life. But unless they could convince me, and I had a brother, to this day, what he said to me after the fact was very profound. He said, if we could have done anything for you, we would have, but you told us that we were better off if we left. And that's how desperate I became. It wasn't that I was willing to agree with them as to my condition. It was to force them to leave me. And almost to validate, I was more willing to have them leave than I was to say, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe I do need help. Maybe I am addicted to alcohol. Maybe I rely on that a little bit too much to make me comfortable around others.
Yeah, and depending on who you are and what you're doing, that awakening can happen almost any time.
Yes.
I tell the story about my father-in-law, who was an incredible man, a great father to his kids, a great husband to his wife, phenomenal, talented in the construction industry. And he used to tell the story that, in the construction industry, after Friday finish work, they get paid, and where they go to the bar.
Yeah.
And then he'd come home all beat up and all messed up every Friday night. And he said one Friday night, he says, I'm going to find out who this bastard is.
Yeah.
Okay? And he goes in, and he found out the one who started it all was him.
Yeah.
That moment was the last drink he ever had.
Yeah.
The last time he had a cigarette. He wasn't addicted as had to have it all the time, but that Friday night addiction caused all that problem. And once he realized that the problem was him and he wanted to do something about it, he did something about it.
Yeah. And alcohol is not the enemy, as I've said before, because I know many people who drink who don't have a problem like I had. So not only do I have to admit I'm powerless over alcohol, that my life had become unmanageable, but I had to admit that even if I put the drink down, there still needed to be some changes in me where I had to look at myself and say, maybe I am acting improperly. Maybe I am acting insanely in a manner that's not conducive to the say I want to live. Because, Mike, I always wanted to be a good husband. I always wanted to be a good father. I always wanted to be a good son, a good brother, a good employee, a good friend. I always wanted to be those things. But even when I stopped drinking for a time, but what I was doing wasn't conducive to who I said I wanted to be. And so you learn after a while to hope, and hope is not a plan. Action is a plan. Um, I was talking to a friend earlier today, and we're old enough to remember when you had a clutch and you had to pop the clutch just to get the car going. And pushing the car in the beginning was a very difficult thing to do. But once you got it moving, you could steer it before the days of power steering. Um, you could move the car, but it had to be moving before you could get it started. And as long as we're stuck in, a matter of fact, a preacher from Saddleback Community Church in Southern California said a grave denial and a grave is life is like a grave with both ends kicked out, and unless we get out of it, we're going to die there. And as long as I'm in denial over who I am, I'm never going to do what I think I need to do. And so the first step in admitting we're powerless over alcohol or drugs or whatever our behavior is that causing our life to burn to the ground, to go sideways, and as a result, our life has become unmanageable. Until we're ready to admit that, until we're ready to get that self-view, we're not going to do steps 2 through 12. Why would we?
Yeah, and you look at it this way, it's like we think we want to change, okay? And I think I want to change the way what my clothes are and stuff. So I'll go look in the mirror.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make me want to change.
No.
Okay, I could say, well, that doesn't look so bad.
Yeah.
Okay? Until I'm willing to admit, really, it does look bad, and change that view of myself.
Yeah.
These things don't happen.
You know, I love Father Martin when he talks about diagnosing a condition doesn't fix a condition. So not only do I have to admit that I'm powerless and my life had become unmanageable, I have to be willing to do what it takes to be a different person. I need to take on the persona of a person who's changed. It's in AA, we call it fake it until you make it. And so we would go through the process of doing what other people have done before us to initiate the change that we see in them. But it all starts with the self-diagnosis, the self-concept, the self-realization that, as Dr. Paul would say, and Dr. Alcoholic Addict or Dr. Physician, Heal Thyself in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, even without my permission, maybe I really am an alcoholic of sorts. He said this is all he needed for a start. And that's all we need. We need to see our condition as debilitating, as a barrier to prevent us from being what we wanted to be. But it starts with the self-diagnosis, the self-concept. Yes, I really am.
You know, I've seen over the 13 years of working in the drug court program, time and time again, we'll get a new participant to come in. And basically, they've gotten into the program to get out of jail.
Yes.
Okay? And they had no intention of really getting into recovery. They'll do what the program requires to. But then somewhere around the line, somewhere around the road, down the road, could be 2, 3 months, they're finally looking and say, you know what? I'm feeling like a new person here.
Yeah.
I haven't had that drug or that drink. So maybe there's something in this. And then they start taking the recovery process, the treatment process, the 12-step process more seriously. And as they see those changes in taking that more seriously, then their desire to really make it takes hold.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that we see. I've seen time and time again when people come into the program and you knew they didn't want, they're only doing it to get out of jail. They'll do what they have to do to stay this and that, but they have no desire to really be in recovery.
Yeah.
And then a year later, when they step up to the platform and their graduation, it's been real. It's been
Yes.
real. They wanted it and they got it. They know what needs to do to continue to keep it because it doesn't end that day. It's just the beginning part.
Right.
But they got it. And that's what you're talking about. Let me go back in and look at that mirror and see that those clothes are really nice.
Yeah.
They really didn't need replaced. They just need a little change. Maybe I had to go through the washing machine once.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And that's where the program of recovery is a design for living. I always need to learn how to live. As I tell many people often, recovery is a journey, not a destination. We never fully arrive until we take our last breath. Then obviously we're done, and we return to our Creator. And until then, I'm always moving forward. Sir Isaac Newton says that things that are at rest tend to stay at rest. Things that are in motion tend to stay in motion. And then there's this thing called gravity, which says if you stay in one place too long, you're going to go backwards. It's inevitable to do. So violating that is violating scientific principles that we all can agree on. When I came into the studio today, I didn't feel this chair to see whether or not it would hold me. I've sat in this chair before. I know other people have sat in the chair. I trust this chair will hold me because it's held other people before. And so I just sit in it. And that's how we have to do recovery. Once we admit, and in your example of the person who sees them change, we get in the program of recovery because it beats the alternative. It beats
Whatever that
5 years. It beats a divorce. It beats being fired. We get to that point where we're just sick and tired of being sick and tired. But after that, we begin to see ourselves based on what we do, how we view ourselves. Somewhere along the line, the individual that you described who started to change after a year saw the results in him or her that he saw in others. And he or she wanted more of it because we never stop wanting more. We just change what the more is. I want more. It says in the big book that God will show you how to create the fellowship that you crave. There's something inside of us that we don't mean to destroy the lives that we've destroyed along the way. Our behavior did. When we change the behavior, changing the initial behavior is just the beginning. Living a clean and sober life is what carries us through. But we do it not because of fear. Like on the way here from Daytona Beach, I had 2 police officers get behind me. Didn't matter to me that they were behind me because I'm as legal as can be. And they could pull me over and I would not be as the newcomer who didn't have a license, who was probably driving a stolen car, who had a weapon he should not be having, and was legally able to drive. I had none of those issues anymore. So whether or not they were just behind me to get in another lane and to go on. But if they had pulled me over, I would not be convicted of that which I would have been convicted of before, because I'm a new person, I'm a new creature, and I all of that to my higher power.
Well, and just in that relationship, and I'm sure you can remember back with 2 cops pulling behind you.
Yes.
Something called fear would say. Okay.
Yes.
So now you know where you've been, what you've done, who you are now. You have nothing to fear with in that case.
No.
And what a big change that makes in you.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have to worry about I'm going out. Okay. If you get arrested enough times, especially with the new equipment that you drive by, they got your plate. They might just pull you over just in case, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to worry about that.
No. My biggest worry was whether or not I was going to be here on time, not whether or not I was going to be pulled over, because I'm a person of my word. And I like to show up on time where I say I'm going to show up and when I'm going to show. Those are things that are important to me now, not how I'm going to show up. And that's how it was in the past. How was I going to be received? Because I knew you received me well, but I would show up well. I would show up consistent with what your expectation was. But that is, I view myself when I'm in a meeting, I say, my name is Robert and I am a recovered alcoholic. I always identify myself as a person who has recovered, not that I don't stay in recovery, but I have achieved that recovered state of mind and body, that degree of hopelessness and helplessness that I used to experience when I was doing what got me to be hopeless.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And it's such a key to the whole success story. That ability to see that the hope that was provided for you while you were going through this is real.
Yeah.
It's real, and you will. And I love the fact that when you go to a meeting, you don't say, "Hey, my name is Robert. I'm an alcoholic." You say, "Hi, I am Robert, and I am recovered."
Yeah.
And then you can go on and say, "And I know from my recovery, it's important for me to still be here."
Yes.
But yes, you're not putting yourself in that negative position. Okay? If after 39 years you've been clean and sober, you go into that meeting and say, "Hi, I'm Robert, I'm an alcoholic." That puts a different twist on it.
Yeah.
It doesn't give the hope to those other people that are in that meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, that recovery is possible.
You know, in the beginning, I was with such brilliant people in recovery, simple people, but brilliant. They had an understanding. They knew to take me to the back of the book to show me what I could be if I was willing to do what they had done to become what I wanted to be. Does that make sense?
It makes enormous sense, even because of the way the Bible works.
Yeah.
I know the end of the story. I know where I am in the story. So I'm happy.
Well,
I'm not struggling to get through it. I know that I still have to keep my faith going, keep my study going. It just doesn't boom overnight and you forget it all.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. But to have that understanding that, yes, I've got it. I know what I got to do, and I want to do it.
Yes.
And I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You bring up the Bible. There's a story of Peter and Jesus. And whether you believe it or not, believe the story because it's real in my life. Jesus said to Peter, "Satan has asked for you by name to sift you like wheat." In other words, to go through a traumatic experience, because recovery isn't always easy. It's always doable. But sometimes I tell people all the time, we're only a phone call away from having our life turned upside down. My wife has gotten in an accident on the way home, or something's happened to one of my grandchildren or some of my children. I'm very fortunate that this hasn't occurred recently, but I've gotten phone calls where my sister has passed away. My father-in-law has dropped dead. You know, my dad died. My mom passed away. I've lost some people along the way. But sometimes our life isn't going to make sense to us. Sometimes our life will hurt. However, this story, to set the table, Jesus said, Satan has asked to sift you like wheat. When he is done, not I'm going to stop him, but when he is done, I'm going to build my church on you. He told Peter, expect a hard ride. But when you get through it, brother, you're my guy. You're my guy here. I'm going, but you're my guy here. I'm going to build in you something that the world will be talking about 3,000 years later. But things are going to get hard. Peter had to know who he was to accept who Christ said he could become. And unless we accept our past and who we can be through our self-image, our self-concept, I tell people Self-talk is the most powerful thing, because I learned this through having friends who are anorexic, beautiful young women especially, and I could tell them they were beautiful, they were wonderful, they were attractive, and unless they saw themselves as that, they continued to binge and purge and not eat beyond a point that was healthy. And until we see ourselves as we are and see ourselves becoming who we say we want to become, we will never get well, we'll never make the strides, because we'll see ourselves as helpless and hopeless to achieve. So why start if we can't end?
And that talks up two of the topics that we discussed prior to coming on today and what we're going to be talking about, basically. Okay, our self-image
Yes.
is important. When we have a positive self-image of ourselves, we've gone to that point where we're thinking that that's a good foundation for the rest of the ride.
It is.
Okay, so we have to develop that. And that gets back to what we talked about, looking in the mirror. Okay, you got to have that ability to say, okay, I like that person now. Because before, when I looked in, I really didn't care for you so
Yeah.
much. But now I get to the point, I like that person. I know I still got a ways to go. But I know I'm going.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going and why I'm going, how I'm going to do it. And I'm blessed to be surrounded by those who I need to have in my life.
Yes.
No longer the ones I don't need in my life.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. It's so very important.
It is. It's essential.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
We can't do without it.
No.
And I don't care if you're not an addict. Those are things that all of us need.
Yeah. You know, Zig Ziglar, one of the greatest motivational speakers of all time, said that we have to be, instead of being a wandering generality with no purpose, no direction, we need to become a meaningful specific. But that takes action on our part. We need to see ourselves as needing help, and then we need to see ourselves as getting the help.
And that's it. And that's I think at this point, this is a good part that we can wrap up today. I can't believe how fast these conversations go.
I age in the process.
And people will notice sometimes when you're talking, it's still my picture. That's because I'm so involved in listening to what you get to say. Sometimes I forget to change the camera. And I'm hoping that those who are listening to this have the same thing. Have an understanding.
Yes.
Robert, is there a way that listeners can get a hold of you if they need
Sure.
some direction? Can you let them know?
You know, they can email me, Robert@recoveryguy.org.
Robert@recoveryguy.
Yes, RECOVERYGUY.org.
Okay.
Or if they want to call me, they can call me at 801-995-2753. It's a number I've had for a long time in Utah.
My 401
And so
numbers, I've been here in Florida for 20 years, so that hasn't changed yet either.
Yeah. If anyone wants to message me again, 801-995-2753, just tell me who you are, what question you have, and I'd be more than happy, because we don't get to keep that which we are not willing to give away.
Right. And again, for any of you that are listening, any of our audience out there that are listening to the Road to Recovery podcast, if you have a story you want to come on and talk about, we will more than welcome you to come in and join us here in the studio. We'll do a podcast recording. We'll take 35 to 45 minutes of your time, and we'll get it out, because every time you do that, it helps two people.
Yes.
You, because you've told your story, and those that are listening.
Yes.
And you can be part of the help. You can be part of that hope that we all require and need. So please keep that in mind. Robert, once again, these are the fastest 30 minutes that I see during the week. And I have some other very good podcasts this week, but with sitting down with you, it goes like boom, and it's done.
We're all finished.
I'm sorry that it's the end of today.
Yes.
But we know we're going to have you back again. So everybody, this is Mike Feldbauer from the Road to Recovery podcast, coming to you from the Flag the Voice podcast studios. being powered by the U.S. News and Entertainment Network. We'll see you again. When you look at this, share it. Let your friends see it. Give them hope.